the play posit on graphing a system of linear inequalities. Now, since you won't be graphing by hand pretty much at all for this unit, unless you choose to do that yourself, I wanted to show you how the IXLs are going to look, and then also kind of, show you how to electronically do this. So I just pulled a random IXL problem, and you'll notice here that they gave you the system up here at the top. And what they're asking you to do is to put each of the inequalities on the graph, and then down here at the bottom, they have the 3 toggle switches that you're going to use. So you probably already figured out how to do the IXL with just one inequality, but with a system, it gets a little bit trickier. So I want to give you some strategies here to help you out. So the system note is up top, but everything you need is really down here as well. So I'm going to leave it so that we can view all of this together. So first step, just like you would have done in a single inequality, is to get both of the lines on the graph. So y is less than -7. We'll click on the orange. Y equals -7 would be a horizontal line going through -7. So I'm going to put the point on the y-axis at -7, and then put a second point anywhere on that horizontal. Now, it automatically graphed a dashed line, but I do need to check that. In this case, there's no equal to, so dashed is actually correct here. And if you do need to switch, if you didn't figure that out, you just click on the line again, and it toggles it between dash versus solid. Now, as far as the second inequality, it's in mx plus b form. So the y-intercept would be at 1, and then I would go down 2, but I have to go right 1 to make a negative slope. Again, check solid versus dashed. In this case, it's solid, but it's no equal to, so I want to convert the line to a dashed line. Now, as far as the shading, and if you have, if you download an extension, you could potentially even do what I'm about to do on your screen as well. But when we're doing this by hand, I think it's easier because you can literally, like, I could shade for the green line, I could shade over here, and then for the orange or yellowish line, I could shade up here, and see that the shading is going to overlap in this region right here. However, for IXL, it doesn't allow you to do that. So let's get rid of our shading, and let's actually check out what occurs here. So for the yellow line, it says y is less than -7. So if we plug in a test point like 0, that would mean that 0 is less than -7, and we would check, is that true or is that false? So on our, by hand graphing, what I would do is say that's false, so I would shade below the line. Okay, so if you can write on your screen, you can put that shading on there. IXL doesn't recognize that, and that's fine, to help keep help you keep the shading in place. And then you would do the same thing if you're able to write on your screen. For the green line, again, make a test point. If I plug in 0, so we'd have 0 is less than -2 times 0 plus 1. Again, using that test point here at 0, 0. So 0 is less than, this entire side goes to 1, which, hey, that's true this time. So the green line would actually shade down here. So with that in perspective, I see that, if I were doing this by hand, highlighter-wise, I'd come down here and I'd be shading in this entire region, right? But now, IXL didn't recognize any of that because I just wrote over top of their website. So what I have to do is I need to click on shade, and then I'm going to pick the region that is the solution. And according to our highlight, it's right here. So that was super easy with the annotations over the screen. But how are you going to do it if you don't download something that allows you to write on the screen? Well, let's get rid of all of our annotations, and we'll kind of work our way back through it. So let me also get rid of the shading because we don't know where that is if we start over. I would still do some work by hand with those test points, just so you can keep that in track. So the yellow line, we said the test point was 0. Is that true or false? And it's false. So if we go with just that one, the yellow line shading where it's false would mean that we'd shade here and here, right? Because that's shading under the yellow line. For the green line, the shading ends up being true, so we want to shade under the line. So technically, under the line would be here and here. Well, when I did that, kind of the opposite effect happened. Notice that where they overlapped is the part that's now white. So that's actually the solution because we already just saw that with the annotations on the screen. So I'm going to put this piece back and then I'm going to get rid of these other two because they're only solutions for one or the other, not both. And when we're graphing a system, we definitely want it to be both. So that would be the correct solution to the system. So now I can click submit and it's going to know that that is correct. And you can do this with any. So now notice this next example, they're giving us two inequalities in slope-intercept form. So let's get rid of our old annotations here. For this one, if we quickly get the lines on here, we'd start at +2, go down 5, and then over 1 to the right to make a negative slope. It is solid because of the equal to. Then when we switch over to green, we're looking at -6 for our starting value and +9. So we're going to go up 9 over 1. We're looking at that line. And again, it is solid. So now, again, the tricky part here is the shading. So if you're going to work it by hand, you can, again, add the annotations right over top of the IXL screen. If not, I'll do it again with just the shading on the IXL button. For our, let's start with green. For our green line, 0, 0 is not on the line, so I'll plug that in. So we'd have 0 is greater than or equal to 9 times 0 minus 6. So you could be writing this on paper. 0 is then greater than or equal to -6 when I simplify that side. And is that true or false? It should be true. 0 is bigger than a negative number. So shading-wise, that means that for the green line, I would shade towards 0. So the side that's towards 0 would be here, and then also this little segment up here. Now, if I switch to the orange line, again, just check out what the test point tells us. And again, I'm going to use 0, 0. 0 is now less than or equal to -5 times 0 plus 2. So 0 is less than or equal to, and the right-hand side would just be a 2. Is that true or false? It is also true. 0 is less than 2. So now, grab the shade button again, and I want to shade the side of the orange line that is true or includes 0, and that would be to the left. So here and here. So again, notice that what this is doing is since I'm double clicking on the overlapping region, it's unhighlighting it. So I want to put that one back, and then I'm going to get rid of these two excess parts that would only be a solution to one or the other. And at that point, I should be able to hit submit, and there it is. So this is the IXL that you are to be trying today. Feel free, if you need to, ask us questions. We're here to help. Good luck.